All right. Welcome, Nicholas. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you very much. Hi. Happy being here.
Hi. All right. Do you want to introduce yourself so that we know about you and all the work you've been doing over the years?
Sure, of course. Um, so I'll be brief. I've been working in the financial services space for the past 12 years now, different roles, different types of organization. I've been a consultant in the Big Four. I was also a compliance officer with HSBC. I was a chief risk and compliance officer for a French fintech. And basically, always been focusing on regulatory aspect, risk compliance, and anything related to that space for finance, both retail and financial markets in the EU.
Ooh, you're the right person for us to speak with today because we have a
Great.
lot of questions about regulations and risks and all of that good stuff. So,
Sure.
when a founder is thinking about their financial product,
Mhm.
what's the first legal or regulatory decision that every founder must make before launching in the EU, especially? And what happens if they get this wrong?
Sure. So I think the first step is to correctly qualify and identify the business itself. So that's the product, that's part of it, but it's also the general operational model, the way it's going to work. What are you going to sell to whom, where? Geography is very important as well. What's the sales channel? Is it going to be digital only? Is there any physical delivery? All of that will help and qualify the business to make sure that you get the right idea when it comes to what kind of licensing do you need. Sometimes you will need a very light one, sometimes a more complex one, especially if it's investment services. It's going to be higher requirements if you have retail clients as opposed to professionals, things like that. So I think the first step is to make a general qualification of your business, and to make sure that you have the right spot when it comes to what kind of licensing do you need. I don't think you can actually get it wrong, so to speak. You might just end up wasting time, wasting resources. That's probably the worst that's gonna come to you. Wasting money, of course, that's part of it, because it has a cost. Um, but if you get it wrong, and we'll come to that later, I guess, the regulator will tell you from the beginning, because it's going to be the first thing that, or your counsel, if you have legal counsel with you, they're going to say, no, this is not the right path. You are this and this, so you should be licensed as an investment service provider or not, etc.
Okay, that makes sense. But like you said, it's a lot of stuff to figure out, and most people don't want to waste time and money. So what
Absolutely.
I'm hearing is that probably start with legal counsel. But then people also get nervous about legal counsel. So what would you say is important? Like, how do you choose the right lawyer or the right legal counsel for your fintech? And what should you expect in terms of like costs and scope and the outcomes with working with legal counsel?
Sure, that's a good question. I guess if you don't know anyone yourself, somebody that you would trust or whose experience you're aware of, start with your network. Who has built a financial services company, and has been accompanied by some specific lawyer, and you go to them. Maybe if you have the right resources, you can also go to a big firm. It usually helps, of course, because they're going to have different types of lawyers, different type of seniorities, with different expertise, and they will help you with the right path. So I guess as to whom, it can depend on who you are, and what your network is, but generally either go with somebody you trust and know personally, or go with a big name. It usually helps. As to what
Okay.
you should expect, I guess in terms of scope, the main objective is for the lawyer to bring you to success, which is to build your company. So it's gonna imply a lot of different steps. They're gonna have to provide legal counsel per se, which means guidance, telling you what you should expect, telling you how you should qualify your product. It's going to imply also a lot of networking. They can introduce you to the right people if you don't know anyone to partner with. They can point you to another lawyer, maybe if they have another expertise that they don't have. And they're going to help you speak to the regulator. And this is probably the most important part in the beginning for somebody who's not really aware of how it works. So you really need somebody you should trust. because they're going to have to provide you with a lot of stuff in the beginning, actual concrete work, procedures, legal documentation, guidance, and I say somebody to be with and to discuss the company in its most intimate aspects, your shareholders, confidential information, anything that will help you build a strong business.
Ooh, yeah. So trust is such a big thing because, like you
Yes.
said, the your legal counsel is going to be going into all the details. So I really like that. Like either go with someone you already trust and you know in your network, or go with a big name. It might be a little bit more expensive, but at least you don't have to waste too much time. So that makes sense.
Exactly. And I think from the beginning you should wonder, am I going to trust that person? And this is a capital decision to make when it comes to sticking to your lawyer or changing, because you can change, of course. But trust is a key element.
Okay, okay. So what should a founder's regulatory setup actually look like in the first 12 months in terms of capital, staffing, and internal controls?
Yeah, so I think there are two separate phases that we should talk about. The first one is pre-license or registration, and the first one is after that. Before the license, when it comes to regulation, well, you need the legal counsel. We just talked about that, and they are a lawyer generally. Very specifically, you shouldn't accept legal counsel from anyone else. It's a lawyer, a qualified registered lawyer. Um, and I think it's very important to also have a compliance officer. Depending on your business and depending mostly on the scale, you would need different types of seniorities. But a compliance officer that will have a different perspective from the lawyer is very important. And it's important to have them as an internal staff as soon as possible, as soon as you can pay them at least. This is also a very important token of trust to the regulator, to show that you are willing to invest in compliance and make sure that you have the proper staff internally on your payroll. So when it comes to capital, I think it's also depending on that. You don't have any specific requirements from the regulation before you're licensed and before you start your activity. So you would need the minimum capital that you need to develop the company. And according to what you need, it's going to be marketing, operations, compliance and legal. It's going to be development if it's a tech company as well. So no specific regulation here that will tell you what to do, but at least you need to cover all your costs. If we move to the post-licensing and when the activity actually starts, then that's when it gets tricky because everything is depending on the license that you got. Some are lighter, depending on the types of investment services that you provide, depending also to who you provide them, what you do. For example, if you have custody of client money or client assets, you're going to have higher capital requirements because you're going to need to be able to vouch for anything that you keep on custody, and in case of failure, for example. So this is gonna be very dependent on the license, which brings us, I guess, to the two first steps, meaning have you been properly counseled when it comes to your license, and did you correctly assess your business and make sure that you had the right license? Because it's gonna create a lot of obligations here. So yeah, I guess that's the separation that very matters a lot. You need to find out from the beginning what you're gonna need for after the license. It's very important.
Okay, very good. My goodness. There's so much to know, so much to know. This is why you need legal counsel, and I'm so
Absolutely.
glad we started with that. Okay, so when we're talking about engaging with regulators,
Mhm.
when and how should founders engage with regulators? Should they wait till later when they feel more ready, or in the beginning, especially if they're new to the space or entering a new EU country?
Right. So I think it's a very progressive step-by-step process. It's not usually frowned upon to get in touch with regulator very early on. Uh, it's usually advised that you have your counsel by then already and that you should not go to the regulator without legal counsel. A first informal discussion is welcome. You bring the project, you just explain what it is. You get some kind of a first feedback, very informal on the phone or in person, and you can start orienting the work that you're going to have to do for the next step. then I guess you have to wait a little bit and you have to be more confident and more robust when it comes to compliance and legal. If you go back to the regulator the second time, it's because you are ready to just upload an actual application and you're ready to say, this is my company, this is the choice I'm making, and this is what I'm presenting to you in terms of compliance, operations, etc. So it's really a step-by-step process, and I think you have different types to approach it, different ways to approach it. This is about the when. What I can say about the how, which is very important, is that licensing processes usually take a lot of time according to the license. And this is something that founders usually overlook or about which they feel more confident that they should. Um, it has to be a process that you're going to be patient with and very humble, because it implies a lot of risk for you. You needn't, well, you can't bring any pressure to your staff, to your regulator that will be undue because, well, the process is what it is, and it's the same for everybody. It's a common mistake, I think, to treat a regulator as a commercial partner, to try to bargain, to try to impress them or to influence them with external elements. It just doesn't work, and it can actually be prejudicial. So patience is the key word here as to how.
That's so good. So it's almost leading to the next question, which is what is often overlooked when founders are building financial products for the EU retail or market spaces, that comes back to hurt them later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the right question in continuity here. So the timeline is very often overlooked. I don't think it's so much overlooked as maybe ignored. I think most counsel from the beginning say it's going to take a lot of time, so be very careful. You don't want to drag your prospective clients for too long. You don't want to stall your investors for too long. It can take more than you're actually planning to. And I think it's not ignored out of a malignant intention. It's, I guess, part of the creating process. And it's, no, I'm optimistic. It's going to be better. You're better. I'm better, etc. And afterwards, it's I guess it's a high fall that you experience if it takes too long. So this is a very important point. The other point that's often overlooked is the resources it's going to take, because again, here time is money, and you have to pay your staff for the time that it takes to get the license. You have to keep raising money if you don't have enough, etc. So capital and staffing here are very important as well, and they should be more taken into account from the beginning.
Mm. And I really love how you talk about founders. Yeah, a lot of founders like us, we always think, no, I'm special. It's going to be
Absolutely.
different for me. It's not going to
Absolutely.
take us long. And you're the best lawyer I could find. You're going to do it. So
And
that makes a lot of sense.
And this is, I
Um,
think, what the lawyer brings as well, because they can tell the founder, I know for a fact that this company has spent 18 months getting a license because I worked with them, or I have a colleague that worked with them, and this is very factual. So this is exactly what the lawyer needs to convince the founder that it's going to take time for them too.
okay, makes sense. So Um, a lot of people are talking a lot about AI now, and they're saying maybe AI will help us to speed things up because, we don't like to slow things down. But how would you say AI is being used today in regulatory and compliance work? And how can early stage founders leverage it without cutting corners?
I think so far there's been a very traditional use of AI when it comes to compliance. It's, for example, for anti-money laundering, anti-fraud. You have identity verification, anything that comes to the authenticity of documents, for example. All of that has been using AI for several years now, so it's not very new to compliance. But there is now something developing around risk management as well, around regulatory watch. You're using an AI, for example, to read a very long, very complicated new regulation to make a summary. You're using AI to build your risk management system according to parameters that you're going to enter yourself. All of this requires still human intervention. For example, to be honest, I've used AI recently to try to look for regulatory references, and it was wrong many times. And so I had to go and check myself and say, by the way, this is wrong. And so it's I think it's beginning. It's not really I'm not worried about compliance officers. I don't think they are bound to be replaced by AI. This is not exactly something that will happen or that is likely to happen in the coming years. But it's a good tool. It's a good tool as an intern, for example. You're hiring an AI instead of an intern, and it's going to be efficient in helping you research, helping you draft, very very basic stuff.
Oh, I like that idea of looking at AI as an intern. So you still have to go over the work they're doing, but
Absolutely.
at least it's like a starting point sometimes if it's not full of errors. But I
Exactly.
really
So
like.
you still have to provide some management and some supervision.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about a lot of things. And someone listening to this or watching this might be like, "Ooh, there's so much to think about, so much to process." So if we were to simplify to one thing, what would you say is one smart move a founder can make this month to set themselves up for licensing and compliance success?
I think I'm going back to two things. The first one is being humble. Which means being realistic, and maybe possibly being just a little pessimistic, to be able to prepare for worst case scenarios, which are most likely to happen when it comes to regulation than best case scenarios. Um, and the other one is be connected and find out what goes on the regulatory space, because regulators communicate a lot. They speak to each other in the EU, and they sometimes in some countries hinder innovation. In others, they just are in favor of it. It can help you choose the country where you're going to be. It can so just watch for the space in regulation. It's very lively, and it's not as boring as it looks.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Nicholas. For people who want to connect with you, what
Sure.
would you say is the best way for them to reach you?
They can reach me via LinkedIn. I'm very responsive on that, and they will find out also what I've done in my career. So yeah, gladly I'll answer to any question anyone may have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicholas.
Thank you very
It's been
much.
such a great conversation.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me.